Good day. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. It's Tuesday, January the 25th. We've got a special presentation today. We have CEO Hector Bremner of Avricore joining us, along with some special guests. Today, we're joined by Daniel St. Pierre, General Manager of Abbott Rapid Diagnostics Canada, Sol Khan, National Sales Manager of Abbott Rapid Diagnostics Canada, and Mohamad Elsabakhawi, Associate Store Owner of within Shoppers Drug Mart. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Avricore has developed HealthTab, a point-of-care cloud data management service, which brings point-of-care testing closer to the patient by enabling sophisticated testing at the pharmacy. HealthTab allows people to easily take and track key health tests and biomarkers of chronic diseases at their local pharmacy or point-of-care location. I've got Hector back. He presented with us last June, and the company has made some good progress since we met with him then. The reason I've got Avricore on with us is the fact that this little Vancouver health tech company is connecting Abbott Labs and Shoppers Drug Mart, two of the biggest companies in their respective industries, to provide new point-of-care testing paradigm. The fact that we have company representatives joining us today gives me, as an investor, comfort that this is a legitimate and solid partnership. Deals and developments like this often are like icebergs. We only see a small part of what's going on, and we don't know what's going on under the surface. So hopefully this discussion today will be illuminating. And please remember, everyone, this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company, do your due diligence, and come to your own investment conclusions. And first, we're going to start off with Hector giving an overview of Avricore, and then we'll get down to the discussion. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And Hector, take it away.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks to everybody for joining, and also a special thanks to Daniel, Sol, and Mohamad, who I really enjoy working with, and I'm so glad to have you here with us today and talking more about what's going on. And as Martin alluded to, sometimes companies like this get referred to as icebergs. You only see the top 1/5, but I sometimes talk about it as in terms of like a duck on a pond, where it seems very calm on the surface, but there's a flurry of activity underneath the water. So there's a lot of paddling, a lot of kicking, and a lot going on. But we're certainly going in the right direction. We had a tremendous 2021. I'm very, very excited about 2022, and I think we have a very bright future, and we're well on our way to accomplishing that. And so it was important for us to have this conversation now with people, because I think it's while we're in this particular phase, it's important to understand that the work continues behind the scenes, and we will be excited to share more in the future. But in the meantime, let's just focus and reflect on how we got here, and talk a little bit about what's going on now, and then of course talk about what some of our objectives are in 2022, and how the three entities that you see here, Avricore Health and HealthTab, along with Abbott Rapid Diagnostics Canada and Shoppers Drug Mart, and particularly leading pharmacists like Mohamad, and how we're all working together to serve patients better. So first, 2021, important recap here. We completed 2 non-brokered placements during that period, totaling over $3 million. And we had a lot of market activity, and that bode very well for us. And we ended up generating additional income through warrants and option exercising. And so we did about $4.25 million last year in totally raised money. So that puts us in a position essentially where we're fully funded on a go forward. We have the ability to meet our expansion goals. We're well stabilized. Our burn rate remains sub 100,000 a month. So we are very judicious with the cash that we spend, and we're very efficient with what we do with our dollars. And the road to that point, to being a fully funded company, was a tough one. And we're really grateful for everybody that has chipped in and leaned in on us, because we know that the future is very bright for the company because of it. Part of that journey, getting to this point, we were able to retire any debts of the company. So the company is also debt free. We completed 3 separate distribution agreements with Abbott Rapid, in which we're going to talk a little bit more about and why those are significant and what those mean. And we were also able to secure a master agreement with Shoppers Drug Mart. And so the initial work within that has rolled out successfully within Ontario and British Columbia, doing sort of pre-scale work and evaluation work on the program in terms of how it interfaces with the patient and methods in terms of effectively utilizing it in store. And I'm going to have Mohamad speak to that a little bit further about that in a minute. But we've also done a lot of great work in expanding our profile. For example, working with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and engaging with some key health committees, Digital Health Committee, Health Innovations, and making sure that we're a voice at the table. And that even means ensuring some of the recent recommendations from the committees ultimately endorsed by the Chamber have ended up in the recent mandate letters from the Minister of Health and the Minister of Innovation, specifically ensuring that there is a national diabetes strategy. There's also additional focuses on ensuring that health innovation and digital strategies are a part of public healthcare in Canada. And so it's really great that we, as a small entity, as a part of our roles, been able to get our voice heard and making sure that we continue to advocate for pharmacy, the pharmacy sector, point of care testing, and digital health innovations, and making sure that the regulatory environment is not only good for business, but great for patients. And that's what's really what this comes down to. And so we were also able to raise our awareness in terms of an investor profile amongst investors and institutional investors. And I can tell you, since joining the company in 2019, when we're engaging with institutional investors, I can tell you it's a very different conversation than what we were having when I first came on board with the company. I think it was very difficult for us to effectively communicate our story and have it heard and understood. But what I can tell you is that as challenging as COVID has been for so many, and it's been challenging for the markets and challenging to certainly challenging for the pharmacy, and Mohamad can speak a little bit more to that as well, is that pharmacists have been really on the front line of the COVID response. Through all that, people have been reintroduced to the community pharmacy. They perhaps got a rapid test there. They were immunized there. They've been receiving primary care there. And if you look globally at, for example, the National Healthcare Service in Britain, the NHS, Britain has now something called the NHSX, which is their digital health division. And they are a part of a movement where the NHS, the public healthcare system in Britain, is actually moving more primary care into the community pharmacy. This is profound because if you look at the mandate letters of the Canadian Minister of Health, and if you look at the movements in healthcare, even in markets like the United States with a private healthcare system, a greater focus and attention is being paid to community pharmacy, point of care testing, early detection and screening, and breaking down the barriers of sharing that information and having a collaborative approach on the healthcare team in working with that patient. And that's precisely the whole mission and mandate of HealthTab. It's a tool to effectively deliver on those objectives. And we feel that we have a large addressable market, and we have the best approach to do it. And in no small part, that's thanks to Abbott. We launched originally with Abaxis, and we were really, we're excited by that device. However, Abaxis's Piccolo, which we still offer, it does require a much larger sample. However, when we were able to engage with Abbott, we were able to have instruments which we feel provide a great value. They use about 1/10 of the sample size. And they offer a full range of testing mixes that are really effective for community pharmacy. These instruments are not typically found in community pharmacy. I have to state that part of the innovation of HealthTab is taking powerful diagnostic tools that are typically found in either primary care settings, acute care settings, seniors facilities, remote hospitals, small laboratory settings, these instruments now are finding a new lease on life and finding that in primary care within the community pharmacy. And it's very, very exciting because HealthTab now is able to empower these tools by linking them over the cloud and then providing a program that's turnkey for the pharmacy, but also allows us to link these powerful devices and get information to healthcare providers and to patients in real time. And this has an additional layer as being an extraordinarily powerful platform for research. If you can imagine a live network over the cloud of thousands of pharmacies across Canada and the world, reporting back real-time information on patient profiles. We think this is very, very exciting for the very large and addressable clinical trial market, particularly to meet the need for decentralized clinical trials, which is the sort of big buzzword du jour. So with that, a big thanks to Daniel and Sol and the team for working with us on this. It was no small feat. All of us, a lot of brain damage going through the process of the challenges of trying to move. Abbott is not a small company, and we as a small innovator from Canada, coming to them with a concept which is a bit outside the box. I think a lot of credit goes to them to being open to this type of innovation and willing to work with a company like us. And I think it's really quite innovative that we were able to secure these distribution agreements, which are quite unique. Again, we can't thank the team enough. And I want to pass it over to Daniel and to Sol for their thoughts and comments about their perspectives on what HealthTab means for community pharmacy and their instruments.
Hector, sorry to interrupt here. Just so we're all clear here, HealthTab is a cloud-based data system. So when one of these point of care testing devices takes a blood sample and tells me my cholesterol or whatever it does, it uploads to this very secure, sort of medically compliant data cloud, and it keeps your data. So when I come back in 2 weeks, it can track if it's improving or what's going on there. My doctor can see it, the pharmacist can see it, but nobody else can. And then as well, if you're doing that through pharmacy, like drug testing, if the proper authorities the authorization were given, then the researchers could see, hey, they've been given this drug a month ago, and this is what's happening to their blood, whatever levels, and so forth. So it's a secure cloud. Like these testing systems test it, but it's sort of stuck on the device. You take it off and put it in the right hands at the right time. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it, and that's exactly it. And one of the biggest challenges, and again, I'll leave it to Daniel and Sol to speak more to this, but pharmacy for probably the last 10 years has been trying to do point of care testing, and they've done it in a variety of ways, and a fully scaled program thus far has been difficult. And the reason being is a consistency from location to location, and something that's also more patient-centric, that the approaches have typically been more, as Roger Seckham, who developed HealthTab, will often describe, other side of the clipboard, that the patient is on the other side of the clipboard of the experience. Whereas HealthTab is a much more patient-driven experience. It allows the pharmacy to have a turnkey solution that it arrives at the pharmacy. They essentially plug it into the wall. They connect it to their network, and we can interface with their data management systems and ensure that there's total connectivity between the instruments, the patient record management systems, the patient themselves, because they create an account and they have the ability to manage their own information, and then also empower pharmacists like Mohamad to see that information in real time, collaborate with physicians, and wrap a real-time data-driven conversation around chronic disease that are really critical issues in this day and age: diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease. These diseases are killing us, and frankly, they are preventable. And with early detection and screening and management, you can address it. However, both in private healthcare systems and public healthcare systems, there has been sort of a disease management approach, or sort of managing symptoms, whereas it's not really a healthcare approach. A healthcare approach would be ensuring that the person doesn't get sick in the first place. And the only way you can really do that is to make sure you catch it early. And so how do we do that? The community pharmacy is a much better place to do that. And so that's why I've invited these gentlemen here to speak a little bit more about that, because I think that, when we hear from Abbott, we'll see sort of the global perspective around the instrument approach challenges and why a combination between the instrument and an approach like ours works. And then, Mohamad will also speak to how past approaches in point of care testing have perhaps not worked as well in pharmacy comparatively against HealthTab. So Daniel, you maybe can kick us off.
Sure. Thank you so much, Hector. Thanks a lot. Like Abbott Diagnostics is very happy to be in a partnership with HealthTab. We believe that all is in place for to have a very successful 2022 with this partnership. I also believe that this partnership is the best one that can bring diagnostic out of the hospitals into the pharmacies. HealthTab, as an example, with the Abbott Affinion system, is very patient-centric, easy to use, and fast. In about 3 minutes, you have the process is complete, including a review of your results and a pharmacist consultation. So, Abbott Diagnostics, our main goal is to reduce the wait time in hospital emergencies, and strongly believe that testing in pharmacies will eventually accomplish this. And a partnership with HealthTab for us is in the core of our strategy, basically. And we need to have success in testing in pharmacies. And that solution is complete from beginning of patient entering his results to looking at his results cloud-based and having a consultation with pharmacists. So no, thank you, Hector. And we everything is aligned. The contracts are all signed, and the systems are all in stock to have an amazing success full year this year in 2022.
Daniel, fundamentally, you like this service, the HealthTab service, because it's essentially letting Abbott sell more of these point of care testing devices, because it gives them a whole solution, and then you can sell them to essentially all the shoppers across Canada. Is that?
Yes, but if you go a bit, on top of this 20,000-foot view, we're a point of care system company. We're diagnostic, and so it's okay for rural hospitals, for clinics, for remote communities. But in pharmacies, this is where we're going to have the most success, and this is where we're going to solve the ecosystem issue of testing and waiting in emergency for several hours in Canada. So we believe that testing in pharmacy is the place to go. And we're not the only one saying that. Actually, when I talk to executive VP at certain banners, pharmacy banners, this is the way for them. They need to be able to do testing in pharmacies in order to also solve the ecosystem issue. So I think we're kind of all aligned here. Pharmacies, our goal, and government also. I mean, they need to be able to reduce that wait time. So we put all that together, and we have an excellent platform like the HealthTab system that put all that together in an easy way and to manage, because it's all about data. I mean, it's nice to have the diagnostic, it's nice to have the test done, fine, but what do you do with the data after? And HealthTab is all about data. So, and they put all that together, which is a beautiful solution. So it's a win-win for us and for HealthTab and for obviously the ecosystem and the pharmacies.
From your point of view, why couldn't a pharmacist, and maybe Mohamad can address this as well, just put one of these units in a pharmacy? I go there, I get my quick test, you print out a little piece of paper with my stuff on it, you give it to me and send me on my way. Why isn't that a good enough solution? Why have, what benefit does sort of this data management solution give it?
Because, well, Mohamad, I think is a better place to answer this, but if you think about it, I mean, so a patient comes in the pharmacy, and then what? So you need a technician there to be able to do the reception, to start doing the test and so on. And then what do you do with the results after? So HealthTab is able to do all this. The patient, I mean, Hector might elaborate on this, but the patient comes in and he enters his own information. He creates his own account. you know, and then right away after you have the test, and after you have the results and the consultation with the pharmacist. It's just a better pathway for the information, for the results, for the data to be in a system, and then to be, basically you have diagnostic and you have the therapy right after. So to have a complete solution, and in 30 minutes, you go from the diagnostic to therapy. I think that's the way to go in Canada.
And I guess one of the other benefits of just having like a one data point in time. Okay, you get my cholesterol is what? Oh, it's high. That's not good. But if you look back from 2 months ago or 6 months ago, it's better than it was 6 months ago. Hey, you're going in the right direction. So it's that kind of, those kind of signals you're able to get out.
Because the results are there in the cloud somewhere, and then it's all brought back. So your X results was this back then a few months ago. Now it is this. We see an improvement and so on. So absolutely.
But the key, I think, is around the capturing of the data, because again, our instruments are fantastic at generating the result. They're lab accurate, they're robust. There's a ton of data around it. The key, though, is with chronic diseases, you don't get a picture over time. With any normal infectious disease, let's say COVID, for instance, or flu or strep, these are point-in-time tests. You just want to know that right then and there and action it. But the real value that I see that HealthTab provides is the chronic disease monitoring over time. And one of the unique features that I feel links Abbott and HealthTab so well in terms of the partnership is the fact that HealthTab's able to react quite quickly to new technologies. So I started my discussion with HealthTab 2 years ago with the Afinion, just looking at HbA1c. COVID popped up out of the blue that none of us were planning. And within, I think it was about 4 to 6 weeks, Hector's team had COVID parameters built into HealthTab for our ID Now, as well as our lateral flow test. If I was to get that same work done by an LIS company or another data integration company, that's a 3 to 6 month project. And they're doing it in 4 to 6 weeks. So that flexibility alone will be a differentiator when it comes to how pharmacies need to react and how pharmacies need to implement. HealthTab's going to be able to service them a lot faster than anybody else's technology that's in existence right now.
And I presume Abbott is going to be launching new point of care testing devices in the future, newer versions, faster, more accurate, new indications and so forth. And essentially you plug it in, Hector's team plugs in stuff, and within a couple of weeks, all of a sudden the data from this new system gets integrated into your personal health data bank, and you're good to go.
Most definitely. And we, as Abbott, have incorporated Hector's process of defining the test for his system in our process. So before we go to market with a new product in Canada, Hector will have our product, it will be validated, and it will be built in his system ready to go before we commercialize it. So that is the way we see a true partnership. We are aligned with Hector so that his service and his system within HealthTab is going to be ready for market before our product is available. So all of these things are going to be tied together. And as you can see, we already have our Afinion on there. We have our ID Now. One of our other Abbott divisions has the iStat. So we are continually looking at increasing the technology footprint that HealthTab has access to. There are many other technologies that we have access to that we will be feeding into HealthTab. This is a starting point, and the Afinion and the ID Now, we really do feel will be the flagship. But we do expect, as we develop a new test for the ID Now, and there's new tests coming in 2024, there's going to be additional tests coming with the Afinion in 2025. All of these new tests, as they develop, we're going to build this into the research and development program with our company so that once we're developed, we can bring it to HealthTab and get it integrated quite quickly.
Right, and with these platforms, like there's reagents or whatever chemical things you put in a cartridge. If you guys figure out a new cartridge to test for a new indication, the pharmacist gets a little kit of that, plugs it in, and all of a sudden, hey, you can test something new.
That's exactly it. And the simple thing is, when we do bring out a new product, our software updates are very easy and they can be pushed to customers. So it can be very automatic. So it's a very simple process. For instance, our ID Now system launched with flu, strep, and RSV were the three products. I can tell you we're selling a lot more COVID than we are flu, RSV, and strep added together because of the situation we're in. We were the first company to develop a COVID molecular point of care test. It took us 7 weeks of development. A product that usually would take us a year and a half took us 7 weeks because we used our expertise around flu and applied it to COVID. And so we're one of the unique companies that has breadth. We have instrumentation like the ID Now molecular, but we also have manual lateral flow tests. So our expertise goes across technologies. So we're able to pull in people to move the bar a lot faster. And we're really, really proud of the fact that we developed our ID Now molecular COVID test in that 6 to 8 week period.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'll echo the Abbott. We always say that we sort of remain device agnostic, or the power of HealthTab is to remain agnostic. But I think we're really grateful that Abbott is by far the most focused in this area. And one to add to the point around what new tests are coming, and one that gets me excited is an example. This is one of the things that I never even thought possible, but capturing the proteins released post concussion, and being able to, if you think about the power of sports leagues at professional and semi-professional, but just think about your children that are out there playing in their Pee-wee league, and a lot of parents are very concerned about COVID protocol. If you knew you could go into your pharmacy and you knew that you could just stop on the way home, and you knew that you'd be able to take a test and know in minutes as to whether or not your child has a concussion, that just goes to speak to not only the power of the sort of flexibility of the testing and the future evolvement of what will happen in pharmacy with Abbott devices powered by HealthTab, but it also gets really exciting when, and I'll get to him in a minute, as Mohamad, is that he's the guy that is really out there as as a peers chair for his group there in Ontario, and he's really looked up to in the pharmacy profession. There's a lot of pharmacists like him that are saying we have the education, we have the training, we have the skills. It's not scope creep. It is access to necessary medical treatment and access to primary care that otherwise the healthcare system can't deliver for you. It's just, unless you're going to an emergency room and certainly a primary physician, as we all know, every local government, regional government rather, every provincial government struggles with addressing primary care through physicians' offices, through general practice. And I won't go too far into that, but the reality is as a former staffer in the BC government, we launched the GP for Me program, which was a very progressive initiative. We worked very, very hard to recruit, train, and deliver more general practitioners in the province of British Columbia. It didn't work. And we were paying for education. We were bending over backwards. We were doing everything that we could. And I saw, recently, more provinces announcing that, they're going to hire and train more general practitioners. I will tell you right now, it's not going to happen. And it's systemic to the medical practice, and you're not going to get more general practitioners. There's not going to be more doctors' offices. And they certainly will never be as more flexible as the community pharmacy. It's the only place you can walk in. People often ask us, why are we focused on community pharmacy? And why aren't we focused on doctors' offices or whatever? The pharmacy is the only place where, as an individual, you can walk in the door, no appointment required, and receive healthcare besides an emergency room. So it is a totally unique opportunity within the healthcare space. We think that consumers want direct agency. Dr. Google has been training patients to believe that information on demand is not only just necessary, but an expectation. And they also want to be able to, as I said before, be on the other side of the clipboard. They want to have agency in the experience. And so typical primary care delivery is very challenging to accomplish that. However, the community pharmacy with point of care testing, with proper data management tools, managed over time, focused on early detection and screening and support of the patient, that is the way that we can both meet the demand of the patient care and shift away from disease care to healthcare and control costs and deliver new innovations and I think drive more value. So, and to that point, as we look ahead, we're looking to conclude scale-up agreements. We are focused on more integrations. A key element of HealthTab's power is that people need to understand in the marketplace that many pharmacy groups and many healthcare groups have already sort of decided who the winners are going to be in terms of those health dashboard apps, those health data management tools, those tools that live within the pharmacy. They're quite institutionalized. It's very, very difficult to displace them. However, the solutions, and people often ask us about competitors, and I would say that, we have people that do stuff that's, parts of what we do, but not completely. If we look at what they call the lab information systems, the LISs is an acronym you've probably heard here today. They are not necessarily famous for being overly collaborative, whereas our platform is very collaborative. We're not here to build fences around information. We're here to lean in with a positive approach and say, as Daniel laid out, or Sol laid out, we move very quickly to collaborate and find the patch that's going to work. So these tools can integrate in such a way that makes sense for the healthcare practitioner, the patient, and those that need the information. So it's a real distinct market advantage of ours. And I think that's why we've been gaining the traction that we've been getting traction in regards to, because we are kind of a breath of fresh air in that regard. I think in a very established industry that has not been famous for flexibility, but we've really been enjoying working with everybody. So we're looking to expand across Canada. We're also very focused, Canada as a market is a great place for us to incubate, and we're excited about Canada. We think fantastic revenues can be generated out of Canada. But of course, when we look to the United States, when we look to the United Kingdom, when we look to the EU, even Mexico, in December, we did a shareholder update, and we were just giving an example that was presented to me of a Mexican pharmacy group, 6,000 locations doing 10.4 million patient consultations a month. So it goes to show that, incredible opportunity to introduce more point of care testing with more advanced data tools, like the combination you have with HealthTab, with Abbott instruments. So very, very exciting opportunities in some of these emerging markets. And so we're very focused on that, but obviously first things first, we're focused on Canada. We will be expanding the team. And of course, we're looking to expanding revenues significantly this year. And so we are off the pace. Some people will point out that, we're off the pace from last year, but, I don't think we were the only people affected by the fact that the back nine of 2021 was unstable. We had Delta, then Omicron, and, it's obviously our customers are pharmacy, and, pharmacies, and, Mohamad's a true hero. We were just talking earlier before everybody was brought on, he's done 15,000 shots, vaccination shots, just at his one location there, and 36,000 across his other stores. And, he's a true leader in trying to get us back to some sort of normal and saving people's lives and doing the Lord's work. But through that has been an extraordinary sacrifice of their people. And it's been difficult to keep, staffed and focused on these things. So, to that point, there's 110,000 pharmacies in our sort of key focus markets. This is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. And, Canada fits well within that. And pharmacy leaders like Mohamad have been a big part of us, is driving the example in an industry that's really at an exciting inflection point. I really want to impart on anyone listening here today that you need to understand that pharmacy is going through kind of like what the transportation industry was going through with rideshare, like Uber, or the hospitality industry is going through with things like Airbnb. This is really a sea change in the way that they operate. They are moving away from simply fulfilling prescription bottles and more into what they call cognitive services or service-oriented business. And so COVID has really amplified this and been a great proof point on this. But that activity, I think most people here who've been following the information can see that that is going to drop off precipitously in 2022, and we'll kind of be back on a hopefully a more normalized business track here. And we're very excited for Q1 2022. So with that, I want to introduce Mohamad Elsabakhawi, who as I mentioned before, I can't speak highly enough of the guy. He's doing incredible work and really pushing the profession and doing some very, very exciting things. And he's been able to really exceed expectations with HealthTab and been quite passionate about it in his locations on Ontario, and generated some really interesting patient case studies. And Mohamad, maybe you can talk a little bit more about where you see pharmacy going, where you see HealthTab fitting in, and how it's impacted your business.
Right. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm going to start by saying that the future is here. Seriously, the profession, it's a very exciting. It's a very important time for the profession. I'm very proud of the profession. Shout out to all the pharmacists who are listening. We played a very important role at a very difficult time. I was just chatting before we go on air that 36,000 vaccines in 4 locations. And we know vaccines save lives. Like it's great to feel that we can actually give back to the community and use our expertise and skills to actually make a difference. And with this, it was a tough time to launch such an important pilot and to implement this HealthTab in our stores. But even with this, it's been incredible. The uptake from the staff, the uptake from the customers was amazing as well. And I think HealthTab was really important for many reasons, but to me, mainly 2 reasons. Number one, it's data driven. We're able to make data driven decisions, and that wasn't available before. So if we're doing a med review with a patient, and then we would ask the patient, how's your cholesterol levels? Oh, it's good. What does good mean? And is it really good or not? Now we can actually quantify this and do it in-house for the patient. The second thing that HealthTab was able to bring lots of value was to bridge that gap that was created due to the pandemic of access to care. And I want to focus on 2 points here: the return on health. I know this is an investor's call, but I wanted to focus on the return on health and the return on investment. The first part, the return on health. How can HealthTab actually add value to the return on health? And with this, 3 stories. First story was mother and daughter. They were coming to pick up a prescription. We told them about the fact that we can actually offer HealthTab for them. We said at the time they came to do a med review. They open up and they tell my pharmacist that, the daughter especially, that because of the pandemic, her depression got worse. She would wake up in the middle of the night, binge eat. We did the A1C, and her A1C came to be 10%, which is very high. She started tearing and crying. My pharmacist was upset that she was upset, but at the same time, he was happy that he can actually bring value, bring this to put some light on this. We faxed the doctor, and then we got a prescription to actually address this. So to answer your question, Martin, having this at the pharmacy level helps a lot. It's different than you can give a patient the results good luck, go home. But what happens after? But if you have a pharmacist actually looking after this, we can connect the dots, we can close the loops, the loopholes to make sure that this actually get action. We fax the doctor, we get the prescription, we tell the patient how to take it, and then we'll see action. The second story was patient takes antidepressants, medications for anxiety. We offer to go through their like once a year their medications. It's called med checks here in Ontario, and then we offer to do HealthTab. When we did the cholesterol screening, her cholesterol was really high, and then we faxed the doctor. We got a prescription for Lipitor, but these two scenarios, they would have gone unnoticed. Things would have gone through the cracks because we have HealthTab, and because we are very accessible, and because we have healthcare professionals that they really care and they want to make a difference, and we want to utilize our skills. We were able to, first of all, identify it, action it, fax the doctor, get a prescription back, and then really make a difference in their lives. The third example, quickly, had to do with one of my own pharmacists. So when we got HealthTab, we're like, okay, I need to train the trainers. So I got all my pharmacists, and I'm like, okay, we're just gonna test this on ourselves, and we'll see how this works. And by the way, everybody says it's very futuristic. It's just amazing. I'm biased. I love HealthTab. It makes sense. So anyways, my pharmacist, we do his test, and it came A1C was 9. He got really upset, and he said, "This is not accurate. We can't do this to patients. This is not right. I'm gonna go to the lab to prove that this is wrong." He got tested, came back. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but unfortunately for us, the result was correct, and the lab actually confirmed the exact result. It wasn't good news for him, but when you peel the onion and you ask him more questions, both parents were diabetic, and he's not watching. So because of this, now he's actually watching what he eats and what he's not eating. So definitely HealthTab brings value to my pharmacy, to my patients. And because of the pandemic, I think this was shared in I can't remember where I read this, but the newly diagnosed chronic medications is decreased by 15 to 16%, goes back due to the gap of access to care. Patients are not seeing their doctors. Patients are not able to go to the lab to get the lab results. But we have lab accurate machines at our fingertips in the store to help patients. So it's definitely amazing to have this. This is the return on health component. The return on investment component is, for example, when we do HealthTab and when we do these consultations, they usually ask, "So, Mohamad, what can I do? What can I do to help my cholesterol and over-the-counter medication?" So we created this the item of the week, and I can tell you that my vitamin D and omega-3 has been flying off the shelf. I had to increase the minimum stock level in the front shop to make sure that we're meeting the demands when we do the HealthTab consultations. I need to do like a mini study to track the new transfer ins because of the word of mouth. That, this pharmacy, they do more than just counting their medications, 5, 10, 15, take this medication. If you have any questions, give me a call. Like we want to do more, and I think patients they want more. So the return on investment when it comes to sales, new transfer ins, new prescription, new profiles, definitely there. So HealthTab is a solution, and as Daniel said, I think he said testing in pharmacies is the place to go. I totally agree with you, Daniel. I would say that vaccines in pharmacy is the place to go. Point of care and testing in pharmacy is the place to go. It's amazing to see that everything is like aligning. Like it's music to my ears when Hector is saying that we're able to protect proteins released after concussion. How many times do we get a call from school saying, "Oh my God, we just wanted to let you know that your kid bumped their head, they're okay." And then I ask, did they throw up? No, they didn't, but we don't really know for sure. But if it's amazing to have technologies, if we can put this in a place like the pharmacy setting, where we have the traffic coming, and you have healthcare professionals hungry and ready to add value, I think this is great for everybody. Like, I think pharmacy is just connecting all the dots. It's like a puzzle, and pharmacy is right in the heart of this puzzle. So it's definitely a very exciting time.
Mohamad, pharmacies way back before my time, they used to be really a point of care. You go to the pharmacist, they'd say, oh, well, maybe take some aspirin. They would give some primary care support. And it kind of went away from that, where I have a good friend whose father was a pharmacist at Shoppers for 40 years or so. And he joked he was a pill counter. But now you're actually, must make your job more interesting and better, where you can actually really engage with the patient, not just count pills and say, here you go, and get involved with their lives and the benefit of your clientele. Definitely.
And with more automation, that, like, I'm very fortunate to be working with Shoppers Drug Mart. We're focused on more automation to make sure that we take labor out of the pharmacy, so we can just focus on professional services. This is the future of pharmacy. That's why I started with saying the future is here.
And I guess importantly for you guys and other sort of land-based pharmacists, Amazon can't do what you do.
Absolutely not. Because Amazon, they're good when it comes, they can lower the wage cost per script, but they can't compete when it comes to professional services. Like, they're not going to be able to do this. And having HealthTab right here is definitely going to enable me and differentiate my pharmacies from any competition out there.
And so when a patient comes in, is the benefits are, they're there, they could pick up a loaf of bread and buy some aspirin and get a prescription. Do they pay for that service when they come into the location, or is that sort of part of a complimentary, come into Shoppers and we'll help you out?
So this is a good question. It depends on the location. So in the very beginning, I wanted to introduce this to my patients. So I was not charging for it. But it was part of the questions, would you pay, like, would you be willing to come back in 3 months and pay for the service? And almost everyone said absolutely. And I had actually patients come back and they wanted to double check their results. And you would be surprised, because it's not those patients that they had really bad results and they wanted to make sure that they're actually in the green. It was actually both patients, that somebody was, in the green and they were good. They wanted to make sure in 3 months that they're still on the right track. So it was amazing to see that not just patients that they made some modifications, they took some of this stuff and they're watching what they're eating and they started exercise and they wanted to see that they're going to go back to normal levels. But it was also those patients that they were doing a good job and they wanted to make sure that they're staying on the right track.
And it's like, I just had my blood test done 6 months ago, and like, you got to go to your doctor's office or you get a Zoom call now, but then you got to go to the Life Labs and that. This way, for some key ones you want to, my Shoppers is 3 blocks away. I walk there, get a little pinprick, and we're off to the races, right?
Exactly. It's really hard to, first of all, to get an appointment with the doctors, and then to go to the Life Labs. I've seen some, lineups outside Life Labs. And people don't have time, so they want quick access to care. It goes back to that gap of access to care that was created because of the pandemic. And I think pharmacy can be, a solution. And it's truly the front door to our healthcare system.
Well, to the point, if I can add, I'll just jump into a quick thought on that, is that, if we learned anything during the pandemic here, is that you can't have enough laboratory space in the universe to be able to meet certain demand, right? So, and there's really powerful data that shows that patient drop off, like if they are prescribed and they're identified as a patient with a particular chronic illness. And so they may go get tested once. They won't do any follow-up visits because it's too time consuming and it sort of doesn't fit lifestyle wise. And further to that, therapy adherence. Mohamad and several of the other stories we've talked about, patients that have been identified, they are identified as diabetics. They are a person with diabetes. But once they've been identified, there is no follow-up. There is no go forward with them. And this comes back to that challenge around what does primary care look like in the future? And it is very difficult to justify the economics if you're going to do 8-9 years in school, pay a ton of money to become a physician. The top of the class will get recruited to go, unfortunately, to the United States, where they can go into private practice and specialize, focus on one area of work. And if you can make $10 million a year US, or make $1 million as a general practitioner, the choice is clear. So the reality is we are going to be facing an extraordinary challenge, and I'm putting my political hat on here for a second, extraordinary challenge in delivering healthcare in the years ahead. We have a population bomb that's sort of hitting us now. We're in the early waves of it. And that is that it's an aging population with more complex care needs. And it is extraordinarily challenging to meet. We are unable to recruit and retain the talent in traditional healthcare as it has been over the last 40 years. We have to think better. We have to think differently. And the pandemic was a bit of obviously a curse, but it was, there was some blessings and some there were silver linings out of this. And that was that it created a space for innovation and for policymakers and for the public to kind of look at these things differently. And unfortunately, this is the way that humans make decisions. It's not until something's really broken that are we really willing to, lean in and make a change. But we're at that stage right now. And it's a very, very exciting 2022 to, the end of the decade. You're going to see this right now. All of us are here on this call, talking about this as sort of this nascent idea of the future. It's happening now, as Mohamad said, the future is here now. And in 5 years from now, this will be standard practice. And I'll just close my thought quickly if I can. You mentioned Amazon. Mark Cuban this week announced that he's now got a sort of direct to home lab service where you can sort of support. It's a lab service in pharmacy. So he's sort of got an online pharmacy. But the challenge is that this is sort of baking in this idea that the patient is still very much on the other side of the clipboard. They're getting information. Nobody really sees that person. There's no relationship with the healthcare provider. And the reality is that doesn't work. You can't simply do healthcare over the internet. You have to have a healthcare professional that sees that patient. And so the pharmacy is going to be that bridge between the sort of Internet of Things, which is emerging, and you're seeing Amazon and Mark Cuban and all the rest of them going in that direction, and that's fine. But pharmacy is going to have to be that intermediary.
Oh, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate the comment that both Hector and Mohamad were making. We've made strides with this pandemic in terms of the cultural belief about rapid testing and point of care testing. In Canada, consolidated lab testing was the norm in every province. The pandemic has shown us that turnaround time matters. Sending a lab result and waiting 3 days and being infectious is a problem. So that reinforces the need to change the scope of practices for pharmacists in every province. Yeah. Every pharmacy association in Canada is interested in changing that scope of practice today. And they're going to use COVID as an opportunity to engage because it makes sense. Everybody's already doing it. The conversation's there. And so these changes in the scope of practice are going to be there to stay. So we expect that not only will Mohamad be doing COVID testing and A1C testing, but eventually he's going to be doing flu testing when there's flu epidemics or strep testing. There's going to be a panel of an approach that the pharmacy will be able to do. And we see the pharmacy playing major roles in workplace testing. You know, when there's drugs of abuse tests that need to happen in the future for a trucking company, why are they going to life labs and waiting for 6 weeks to get a result when they can go to the pharmacy and get a DOA test as well? There's a lot of opportunity. Once the mindset around point of care has changed, there's a lot of opportunity to introduce new technologies that will reinforce that need for turnaround time quickly.
On that point, so like the positive awareness of rapid tests is really at its peak now. I mean, in 2021, Abbott Diagnostics sold more than 80 million COVID rapid tests to the federal and the provinces. The population is 38 million, guys. So it's almost 3 times the population. So the tests are the rapid tests are very visible now, and they have a very, very positive note and credibility. And I think all that helps the time. That's why I say the timing at the beginning. The timing is exactly perfect, because now the population are kind of embracing this new technology. They're not like Mohamad, your example of I don't believe that results. More and more we won't have that, because the credibility of the results been proven. Obviously, all of our instruments are measured against the lab system. And 80 million tests out there, it's because they wanted more. And honestly, Q1 2022 is going to be a very large number of rapid tests also out there for the Canadians. So the timing is ideal. The credibility of rapid test is done and there, and now we just have to put that in pharmacies in order to have a tremendous success in pharmacies, because like we all said, but I like Mohamad, what he mentioned. I mean, bring on the diagnostic. They're ready to do diagnostic in pharmacies, and we believe the same thing. So this is why our partnership with HealthTab is extremely solid, and we know that it's going to work. And in 2022, it's going to start happening.
And one of the unique positions we have is we are talking to both the provincial and federal governments about point of care rapid testing, and everybody's aligned. The government wants pharmacists doing more. The provincial governments want pharmacists doing more. The pharmacy associations want pharmacists doing more, and the pharmacist wants to do more. So it's a full circle of everybody aligned. So just to reiterate Danielle's point, we couldn't ask for a better time to really put this in the forefront. And we are already seeing legislative changes that would take years to go through that we're seeing in months in support of point of care testing. And that's because it is the right time.
100%.
All right. You know what? We are about an hour into this. I found it interesting getting everyone's perspectives from along the whole, from the device maker and tester to the middle software to the end delivery of these tests. I guess wrapping it up here. From the Abbott side, are there any sort of wrap-up conclusioning comments you'd like to make here as we close things up?
Yeah, so just in closing, I just want to mention this is a long-term partnership. This is not one of those 6-month, 3-month things. We are investing a lot of time and labor in the HealthTab solution. So we have an expectation that this long-term partnership is going to grow. The foundation is very strong. All parties involved are very supportive of it, and we look forward to 2022 because the expectation is we are going to do much better in 2022 than we did in 2021. And 2021 was a great year with HealthTab.
Cool. If you guys, I don't know if you can answer this. Like Abbott's a global company. You guys are Abbott Rapid Diagnostics Canada.
Yes.
Have you talked with your partners with other area codes or other country codes about this sort of a thing?
Most definitely. And we have our subsidiary in the UK is very interested. They've already had conversations with Hector. That's already rolling. We've put Hector in touch with some of the people in the US as well. We will make connections, and we don't see this as a UK, US, Canada thing. We see this as once we have a proof of concept and it's successful in Canada and everything's moving well, the UK is already moving forward. We expect the US to move forward, but the expectation is if we're successful in Canada, that other Abbott subs around the world will be looking to speak to HealthTab to get involved, because there is a global need. This is not unique to North America or Europe. There's a global need around this data integration. So the expectation is that more Abbott companies will be getting involved with HealthTab in the long term once the proof of concept is shown.
Right.
Yeah, I report to executive vice president in the US, and they're really looking at this solution because actually Walgreens is knocking on their door that they want a potential solution. So they're looking at us in HealthTab and Abbott Rapid Diagnostic in Canada, how it's going to work, and what's the process and the success rate that we have. And they hope that works because they have a demand there too in the US big time.
And we don't have a U.S. health pharmacy representative, but I can only imagine that the issues that shoppers and Canadian pharmacists are facing are exactly the same as what's going on in the U.S. They all know who Amazon is, and Amazon wants to mail you your pills and so forth. And they want to have reasons for people to come into the pharmacist to sell more services, to create more of a bond there as well. So I would think a logical conclusion is U.S. pharmacists are looking at this type of solution and finding other ways to provide more services.
The main difference between the US and Canada is Canada's behind, right? The US has been doing point of care testing in the pharmacy for many years. It is expanding, but they have the same problem with data. That data issue is still a problem in the US, and so it needs to get rectified. But point of care testing, because we have a private payer model in the US where everybody's used to paying for their healthcare, pharmacies are very successful. When you have heavy flu seasons, the flu companies out there are selling tens of millions of tests in pharmacy currently. So the market is there. I think what Hector brings to the table in HealthTab is the data integration portion that's missing at a lot of these pharmacies. So that's why, although they're doing the testing right now, they're not looking at how they're going to work with chronic disease. And this is where HealthTab's solution comes into play, because now you have an opportunity to look at that patient with a chronic disease over and over again and build that relationship instead of it being transactional. You get a result, you leave, like you mentioned earlier.
Right. And Mohamad here, any follow-on final comments here before we wrap things up?
No, again, I'm gonna stick to the same phrase. Future is here. It's great to see that the pharmacy is playing finally an important role. When I graduated from University of British Columbia, dating myself back in 2005, and we were doing all these med reviews, but we don't have any data. It was very frustrating because we ask, how's your A1C? Yeah, I think it's good. Did your doctor tell you the results? Yeah, he did, but I don't remember what it is. Now that we can make data-driven decision. To me, this is huge. This is big, and to unlock HealthTab, it can do a lot of things. Like from discussing with Hector, we can do H. pylori testing. If we just focus on creatinine level, there's so many medications that they need the dose to be adjusted based on the kidney function. If this alone can be a huge area for pharmacists just to work on, and the fact that we can detect proteins released after concussion, as Sol was saying that. I'm blanking out here. I forgot what I wanted to say, but anyways, it's the fact that it can do a lot of things, and if we can have this in the pharmacies, it would be great for us.
Probably influenza and RSV and those matters, and to drive this point home for people, there's quite a prominent story over the holidays in Ontario where a young lady, about 23 years old, died of a strep infection. She had gone to the hospital in Toronto, in the greater Toronto area, and she was complaining of abdominal pain. She got sent home, and she came back, and what it was a strep infection. And the example I normally give people is that all of us, given that it started in 1969, are part of the Sesame Street generation. I sure grew up watching Sesame Street, and Jim Henson in his mid-40s, ignored flu symptoms, and it was a strep infection, and he died. A young guy at the peak of his career, and didn't make any sense. And so, the pharmacy is this place to do this. HealthTab brings a turnkey solution for the pharmacy. They don't have to develop a program, which is normally very challenging. We do the quality controls, the data and security management for them. We provide them the clinical practice advice from our own learned experience and help them develop the most successful program. We bring them the best partners in terms of instrumentation, like Abbott, and we drive a program that is something that they can affordably integrate into their pharmacy. It's the upfront capital is much lower than a conventional way of adopting this. The practice makes more sense. It's a long-term turnkey solution for driving the service revenues that they don't just project now need in the future. I can tell you right now that pharmacy groups across Canada, in the United States, across Europe, right now are looking at budget 2022 and wondering how they're going to meet the revenue expectations they've set for themselves around services, and they're really wondering how they're going to get there. And so there's a lot of intensivity behind the scenes. These things don't happen overnight. Of course, we're dealing with, that's why my final slide was the quote from the great sculptor Auguste Rodin, who said, patience is a form of action. We are dealing with very large organizations and institutional structures, and this is scientific and somewhat academic, and it is medicine. This isn't something, decisions that are not taken lightly. But I can tell you that there's a flurry of activity behind the scenes, and we just not only encourage people to give us a serious look and look at all the positive indicators about us today, but we also want to just say that we're really grateful for those that have stuck with us over the last year and a bit. And it's been exciting times, and I know 2022 is going to be an amazing year. So really looking forward to keeping everybody updated, and very soon. And Martin, thanks again for hosting this today.
Everyone, thank you very much for taking a lot of time out of your busy days. We really appreciate that, and sharing the information of what's going on with all your organizations and Avricore. So have a great day. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.